Alright, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I thought that I would be able to get a good night's rest and be over last night's debacle. But all I can get out of my mind was this. And then now I'm having to be subjected to reading a tweet that was released by Ian Begley in response to last night's call from Scott Foster. And I knew today I was going to be upset because I knew Scott Foster and the Brooklyn officials would have had something else to say. But this is what Ian Begley tweeted that Foster's response was. He said, prior to Julius alighting, the ball was touched. He alighted and he can pass or shoot, but he cannot purposely drop the ball and be the first to touch, nor can he dribble. So because Julius Randle is strong and was able to maintain control of the ball while the ball was tipped going up, it's not a travel. But if Julius Randle pulled one of these,
staying aggressive,
or one of these,
we're talking practice.
But here's the problem with this. I think that's a BS call. There was a lot of double standard that goes on in this game. I understand we're a younger team, but at the same time, there was a lot wrong with this game. A lot wrong with this game, and I'm trying so hard. It's not like me. Well, it's not true. It is kind of like me sometimes. But I don't like to give games to referees, but at the same time, I don't like to leave the endings and the decisions up to officials in a basketball game. It's for the basketball players to figure out, not the officials. Stay out of it.
I felt like I could get a good hand on it. Scott called travel. I thought Julius made a good play afterwards, putting it down. I was going to foul him after that.
I think this is a better debate if it was called the other way around, if he just called it a no call. I'm not even on the jump ball BS. But at this time, at this moment, with you standing right there and you seeing what happened, I think it made more sense to let this go with a no call and then have to have the debate whether or not it should have been called a travel or not, because there was contact. Regardless of what you want to say, lighting, this, that, and the third, there's a rule out there that's telling you specifically how this situation happened. The ball was touched by another player going up. Therefore, Julius Randle had every right to go down for an extra dribble. It's the same thing. You go up for a jump shot and the ball gets deflected in any way, shape, or form to alter your jump shot. I can get the ball back, come back down, and try it again. His shot got altered. That's the only reason why he came back down. It makes absolutely no sense. And for him to come down and double down on it, I'm hearing people, agreeing and disagreeing on, it's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. The call was miscalled. Point blank, period. But don't worry. I'm not going to apologize and forgive the Knicks and our mistakes just yet. We're going to get into that in the video. But for this call right here, right in itself, I'm with Julius Randle on this one. Run the intro. What's going on, CK Cruise Boy, CK2K here. Welcome back to another video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. Do not forget to like this video. Yeah, I don't plan to talk too much about last night's game in today's video, because we have another game today and I want to shake it off and I want to move on to a more competitive game that we're gonna have to deal with tonight, facing against the Philadelphia 76ers, who are #1 in the Eastern Conference right now, even without Joel Embiid. We're gonna talk about that, but let me quickly go over the nonsense from last night as well as some of the positive from last night, because I just want to say, because of my frustration, don't get it confused. Good old CK is always finding the good and the positive in some of these games, even though it may seem like there wasn't much. There was a lot of positive in this game, although there was a lot of negative in this game. And I'm just talking about the Knicks strictly. I'm not talking about the Brooklyn officials. But let's start off with the game in general. Okay, it was a game where you could tell both teams were really feeling the competition of, wanting to be the one to win this game. Because in the beginning, both teams looked a little timid. The Brooklyn Nets weren't really as aggressive as they normally are in the beginning of their games, and the Knicks at the same way. We were missing a little bit of shots there, but then it got to a point where both teams were on a roll. We were making everything. Reggie Bullock was pulling from everywhere on the court. Julius Randle was pulling from everywhere on the court. RJ Barrett wasn't really hitting much going on early, but we were still making our shots, and Brooklyn was matching the same way. Everything was good up until that second quarter, where Tom Thibodeau decided to completely go with a brand new five, leaving both Julius Randle and RJ Barrett off of the floor, which is something that I feel like I've been saying, and a lot of us have been saying, you guys as well. We've all been saying that with these rotations, that there's no way that we could go any kind of possession or any kind of quarter without at least one of them on the floor, especially against these kind of teams where that along with our defense, we do need to provide some offense. And the second quarter was the quarter where I feel like everything got away from us, and it led to us playing catch-up ball for the rest of the entire game. Because two main factors, not only just the fact that RJ Barrett and Julius Randle were both not in any type of lineup in in that game, but also the fact that Emmanuel Quickley started the game. So once you take Emmanuel Quickley off of the bench, who is the instant energizer bunny for that second unit, once you take him off of the bench, then you're looking for something else. And I know it's so easy to point fingers at Frank Ntilikina, who was the guy that was replacing him and playing the starting point guard off the bench, but that's just not Frank's role. What Frank's role was, you saw in that second half, and he did a great job of it, but he's not the guy that's going to come off the bench and give you any kind of spark offensively. We still need that, and we're missing that with injuries to Derrick Rose. Well, not injuries, but, you know, hope everything is going well with Derrick Rose and his family. Heard about the unfortunate news with what's going on behind the scenes, and he needs to take as much time as he needs to take. That's a very serious issue. This is just basketball. But the second half, you can see that the coaching staff, Tom Thibodeau and everybody, figured it out, because we were seeing the Brooklyn Nets do exactly what we're mentioning right now with their two guys, with Kyrie Irving and James Harden. Both of them started the games, but even when you're going to their bench, because they know about the bench unit that we've had a great bench throughout this entire season, even though this bench is not quite the same bench because we're missing players. With Mitchell Robinson being out, with Elfrid Payton being out, with Derrick Rose, with all these guys being out, it causes some of the guys that made our bench so good to then go into the starting lineup, and then our bench is a little bit more depleted on the offensive end, because our bench has been phenomenal this season, regardless of how you might feel about certain players. Our bench has been great. Our bench has been able to go out there and continue what's been going on with the starting unit, or make up for what is missing in the starting unit. They've been doing that all season, but we're missing key players in Mitchell Robinson and Derrick Rose, where now Emmanuel Quickley has to go and start. Now, you know, we have Nerlens Noel in the starting unit, so now, you know, Taj Gibson, as great as he's been helping us, you know, he's not that rim protector, not really helping us out in the paint the way that, you know, Nerlens and Mitchell Robinson would. But again, you know, the Nets were the ones that are shorthanded because Blake Griffin and Kevin Durant were playing, so they're the ones that are short. God, I can't stand them. Anyways, we fast forward to the end of the game, the fourth quarter. Not even the fourth quarter, the end of that third quarter, where you saw the New York Knicks start to make a little bit of a run. I think the best moment was when you saw that when Julius Randle was out on the court, RJ Barrett had already been subbed out, but then now Julius Randle is going to be subbed out of the game, and it was for RJ Barrett, and it was the time to shine. This is what RJ Barrett has been asking for. This is what RJ Barrett has been talking about. This is what fans have been asking for, to see RJ Barrett go out there and be the guy to lead the offense on his own, in his own lineup. You know, it's one thing to see him and Julius Randle play the phenomenal basketball that they play together, but we've been waiting for RJ Barrett's moment for him to go out there and do what he did, and he did a tremendous job. 9 points to help the game come back, alongside of Frank Ntilikina with his defense, and Reggie Bullock too. I know some of you guys constantly love to go after Reggie Bullock anytime anything goes wrong. If Elfrid Payton's not in the lineup, Reggie Bullock's the next one to go when it comes to the fan base. But Reggie Bullock last night was showing a lot of great things. Offensively and defensively, it's what we need from Reggie Bullock. And last night was the perfect idea of a game that you want from Reggie Bullock, just not with 42 minutes. That was my biggest issue with that. But outside of that, he was shooting the ball at a good rate, at least to start off the game, and that's normally how it goes for him. But defensively, him and Frank Ntilikina were the ones that allowed us to get all the opportunities that we got to bring us back into this game the way we did. Now, unfortunately, the referees, for whatever reason, do not know how to referee Frank Ntilikina. You can literally search on Twitter Frank Ntilikina and CK2K, and outside of the tweets about me being a fan of Frank Ntilikina, you're going to see me tweeting the same thing, just in different words, for over probably 100 tweets. The referees do not know how to referee Frank Ntilikina. And I have people going and respond to my tweets and in the DMs and whatever, talking about, well, CK, it's because Frank Ntilikina uses his hands too much. I implore you to watch your favorite defender that's not named Frank Ntilikina and tell me how often they use their hands. Yes, they will use their body as well, but they use their hands the same amount of way. I can go down the list from Patrick Beverly, who was just loud, bark, bark, bark.
Game. Beverly harassing. Offensive foul.
He uses his hands a lot, along with his body, and along with making a lot of crazy decisions that the referees just let pass. Marcus Smart.
Sloppy, but here, he just went in the bag on this one.
Each of these guys are all guys that will not get called for these ticky-tack fouls that Frank Ntilikina get called for. The reason I bring up Kyrie Irving is because the one play specifically that really irritated the hell out of me is Kyrie Irving going into Frank for a post-up. Frank pulls the chair, and because he pulls the chair and there was just a slight touch on Kyrie Irving, Frank Ntilikina gets the foul call. Absolutely ridiculous. They're not allowing him to play defense. And it's getting sad in an NBA where, you know, they're literally taking away defense from the players, and then they have the audacity to complain that there's not enough defense being played. Like, it's whack. It makes no sense. And Frank Ntilikina he suffers from this every single time we play a game. The referees constantly foul this kid out. It's crazy. And then we know about the end. I'm not going to talk about it again. I talked about it on the top, and then we ended up losing this game 117 to 112. And it was very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Look, I understood that this was going to be a hard-fought game. I understood that there was going to be that possibility of us losing. But when you take the possibility away from us and it turns into a referee thing, and now the only thing that anyone's talking about the next day is a bad call by the referee, and that's the result of the game, that's what's frustrating. It's one thing if, you know, Julius Randle, it's a no call. Julius Randle does the same thing he does, loses the ball, and it's a turnover, then it's a different conversation. But for them to take the game into their own hands, the ball was clearly tipped. Damian Lillard saw it, the fans saw it, but because the referee took it into his own hands and called it as a travel, I would have taken a jump ball or a no call. Or the easiest thing in a situation like that is just simply no call. But the thing is, it's crazy how it's so easy for the referees to give James Harden no call a few plays earlier when he clearly traveled, and the whole game stopped. Every player stopped on the court when James Harden traveled, but there was no call, so they kept playing, and they got an easy baseline bucket because everyone thought there was going to be a travel. Even James Harden thought there was going to be a travel. But on a clear tip, right in front of the referee's face. Anyways, Knicks lose 117-112. As you can tell, I'm frustrated about the game. It's a whole day later. This is the reason. These kind of games are the reason why I don't do my post games the same night anymore. I used to film them right after the game. But the thing is, I would have been too emotional and would not have been looking. I mean, I'm still emotional about it because this is my team and I still feel how I feel. But at the same time, I'm able to look back and see what it is and know that we have a new game today against a more competitive team, a better team, the number 1 overall team in the Eastern Conference. And we need to focus on that game more so than the game that we just got robbed from us yesterday. And the last thing I'm going to say about this game, and this goes for both Frank Ntilikina and Julius Randle, is it's unfortunate that we have two players that are playing the game the right way in these instances where, you know, they're not overselling, they're not doing anything. Frank Ntilikina is not jawing and getting into referee's face after all these reckless foul calls that they're calling on him. Julius Randle is not purposely flopping after a play to oversell that the ball was tipped out of his hands. Therefore, when we have guys playing the game the right way, we get the wrong end of the stick for that. And that's what's so frustrating about this. Like, we have to watch all these other guys, and that's why you're seeing that a lot more of these players, like, although you may hate them for their flopping, like, I'm not gonna talk about James Harden because that's just etched in his game, but you might hate like the LeBron Jameses for their flopping, and now Kawhi Leonard, who's been doing that a lot more frequently in the last few years in his game. You see these guys etch it into their game because they know how to play the game to get the foul calls, and it's unfortunate that that is the thought process that these players have to have in order to get the referees to call the game for them the right way. That's not how the game should work. Call the game the right way off of what you see on the court. Not because someone didn't sell it hard enough, not because the ball wasn't tipped hard enough because Julius Randle is too strong and he was still able to keep the ball even though the ball was tipped. That's not how the game works. The shot was still altered regardless. If Joe Schmo goes for a shot, the ball gets blocked and I have to bring it back, is the same as if Joe Schmo goes for the wall, the ball is blocked and it moves my adjustment, I can come down and give it. It's the same play. It's the same exact thing. One is stronger than the other, and that's it. It's that simple. And the same thing goes for RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett doesn't get his foul calls because I feel like because he's too strong and he doesn't flop. RJ Barrett now is yelling a little bit more. Like when he goes to the hoop for a foul, you can hear RJ yelling, sound like Lamar Odom out there, but he's still not getting the foul calls. It's like the referees need them to flop in order for us to get the foul. It's crazy. Emmanuel quickly gets so many more calls because he's playing the game. He's got to play the game as a rookie, and he's getting these calls. RJ Barrett goes up, and because he's too strong and he's not swaying away from the contact, the referees think, oh, play on. He's fine. He wasn't fouled. There was no contact. I didn't see it. RJ looked fine. I don't know. It's becoming a damn near real life video game, but I'm gonna leave it at that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below about this one. We've seen all the tweets coming out about the rule, about the block, and this, that, and the third. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Do you think it was missed call? Do you think it was the right call, wrong call? Either way, we lost the game. They took that round. They're up 2-0 on us again in this season. Now we're playing against Philly, and let's talk about this Philly game. Tonight, we have a game against the Philadelphia 76ers, which, again, like I said, against this Brooklyn Nets game, I believe, truly believe, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Knicks fan, but I truly believe it's a winnable game for two reasons. Now, I'm not saying that the Sixers are going to be a walk in the park because they're missing Joel Embiid, but I think the factor of Joel Embiid not being in the lineup helps us out a little bit. They still do have guys like Dwight Howard, but for the most part, this team is going to be resulted in playing a lot of three-point game. That's what they have. That's what they're going to be doing, especially with Ben Simmons being the sole guy playing the game. He's going to be doing a lot of driving and dishing. And luckily for us, with our defense, that is our key component. That is what we do. even against this Brooklyn team, even though we lost that game, we still held a very high-scoring Brooklyn team to only 117 points. I know, and saying only 117 is crazy, but if you're from the past, welcome to 2021. 117 is not that many points anymore. So I really do believe that tonight is a winnable game, but we also know, you know, the elephant in the room. We don't typically do well against the Philadelphia 76ers. I think the Philadelphia 76ers have this crazy win streak against us. I don't know if that's just strictly a home win streak game against us or just the Philadelphia Sixers in general, but the 76ers is a team that we struggle with regardless, and we've had instances where one or the other or sometimes both weren't playing and we still end up losing those games. So I know that this game is going to be a tough game, especially with the new led Doc Rivers team. Like I mentioned earlier, they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. So this is going to be a tough game, but it's definitely not something that we should mail in. If we see the same kind of fight that we see from this team that we saw towards the end or in that last game against Brooklyn, we have a chance. We have a chance to beat any team if we have that same kind of fight. The main thing is, like we had mentioned with our short-handed team, Tom Thibodeau needs to do what he did in that second half earlier on for the Knicks. We need to have at least RJ Barrett or Julius Randle on the floor at all times. These guys are going to be playing 40 plus minutes anyways, so you might as well do it that way. Let them play together, and then in certain instances, let RJ then run the team while Julius is on the bench, and then vice versa while each of them gets a break. That's the best way that we're going to have any shot of keeping us in these kind of games, especially with Derrick Rose and Mitchell Robinson missing from these lineups. So I expect tonight to be a dogfight. Luckily, we're back in Madison Square Garden after that crazy road trip, and we came out of the road trip the way I kind of expected us to come out of that road trip, to be real with you. So what are your thoughts on everything? What were your thoughts about last night's game? Let me know all of your frustrations. Let it all be seen and heard in the comment section below. And what are your guys' predictions for tonight's game? Once again, you will catch me over on Knicks Fan TV after tonight's game. I'll be on the post game yet again. So come through, represent CK Crew. I've been seeing you guys coming through, saying what's up, and being in the chat, repping CK Crew, dropping the hashtag as soon as you guys come through. Keep bringing the energy, keep bringing the noise over to Knicks Fan TV and letting them know that we are in the building. So shout out to you guys. Let's get this one tonight against the 76ers and let's shock the world, all right? You guys know the deal. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Do not forget to like this video. Join the CK Crew members if you haven't already. I'm going to catch you guys in the next video. Let's get it. I'm going to see y'all later. I'm out of here. And peace.
Feeling like I won the lotto. Always taking trips with a new chick, asking where the time goes. And I wonder if this is all I'll know.